The U.S. system is much more open. And, one of the things, like, we have military alliances with a lot of the neighbors of China, right? And those are alliances. Like, they choose to be allied with us. Like, they don't, and that's true. Like, we have allies all over the world, and those are choices. Like,
okay,
China
that's
doesn't have
grossly
allies
overstated, Matt.
Don't trust the Chinese, and
that's
think it's
grossly overstated.
That we are an open system, and countries do
Matt,
feel like they have a voice
Matt,
within this U.S.-led order. So is that an ideal
ignoring...
order? But is it a preferable order to one where the decisions are very tightly controlled by a small group of people?
Matt, see, this is where your credibility...
That's where the argument I would make.
You lose credibility here when you pretend like we don't have the IMF and the World Bank and a system that is coercive and forcing all kinds of countries into picking sides when they would prefer to be in neither. And the whole reason we're in this Ukraine crisis is because of a tug of war where we're basically...
You're talking about, I can't really hear.
Fault. I'm saying that your credibility it starts to be undermined when you frame it that way, in a way that ignores that the IMF and the World Bank and all these national systems exist to coerce countries into joining one side or another in this bipolar universe, when frankly most of them would like to opt out of both. The whole reason we're in the middle of this Ukraine crisis is because of the IMF putting its austerity politics on Ukraine and asking it to choose between us or the deal that Russia is presenting, which isn't great, but was marginally less austere. The country chose to go with Russia and set off, the Victoria Nuland evidence coup attempt instigated by the U.S. because it was upset that they didn't freely choose us.
I think all of this is really begging the question, because you're operating from the premise that the alternative is a utopian order where we don't have to actually think about power. And what I'm saying is we have to think about power, and I'm willing to
It's not that. Choices. No, don't be glib, Matt. Don't be glib and dismissive. This isn't utopia. This isn't sitting here saying we don't have to think about power. It's saying that realistically, no, Matt, I think it's really unrealistic and naive to sit here and say, oh, it's completely okay for the U.S. to go ahead and commit abuses and be as horrific as it's been for the last 50 years, 50 years, because at least it's better than the alternative. That's a kind of pessimistic. No, that's a kind of apologia that allows the status quo to continue indefinitely. If you aren't going to work toward a utopia, then you're part of the problem. You cannot be dismissive of this is the whole point of what we were talking about on the podcast, Matt. You have to have an orientation, a perspective on this stuff that has you oriented toward progress as opposed to tweaking around the edges of the status quo. Which is what you're saying when you're saying, well, it's better that we be in charge than anybody else, so we might as well stay here. That's how people end up in mud huts for thousands of years. Oh, it's better than sleeping in the cave. Come on.
I like you so. I'm enjoying this conversation. But I do...
It's all because my head's in the clouds and I'm not a real person. I'll tell you I'm a real fucking person, Matt. I'm a real person who wakes up every day and has community members and people that I love that are in circumstances that I feel like are unconscionable. They're unconscionable. And my desire to not say, this is good enough, it's never going to really change. What are we going to do? I'm motivated out of that headspace by the fact that I see people with light in their eyes and a spark in their bodies that I respect deeply as a humanist. And I think it's unacceptable that I know that there are millions and billions of human beings like that all around the world living in unconscionable situations. And we're sitting here and thinking for the rest of human history in perpetuity until we knock ourselves out in a climate apocalypse or from the fucking meteorite and get out, don't look up, that it has to be that way. I refuse. And even if I die trying, demoralized, not a single thing fucking changes before I die, how dare I not try?
All right, Sam. So I guess we just listened to this, to bits and pieces, including Bree's rant on her. She called it a rant, I think, too, right? And I think others were calling it a rant as well on Callin. And a shout out to a few of our viewers who actually told us about this, because we had discussed the actual podcast on Friday and it's up for people. But then they did this Callin one and it was even more entertaining than the podcast. So yeah, thanks again to some of viewers who pointed at Sam, and I went and listened to it again. And I just wanted to upload a few of these clips because Bree suggested it, but then I thought we should also share our 2 cents. So Sam, I think we both kind of had fun. So did the other, I don't know, dozen people who were on that call.
Yeah.
What do you make of
It
the
was,
whole thing, man? It was weird. I mean, first of all, I think like, we make long podcasts, but I kind of felt bad for Matt a bit. So he did a 2-hour podcast with Brie, and then there's like a 3-hour follow-up call-in thing. I mean, for my stamina, it's
he
a
had an
bit too
hour
much.
break.
Yeah.
He had an hour break, and I don't know. It seemed he enjoyed it, and it seemed fun. I don't know. I would be discerning. I don't know. I'm the type of person who just never lets something go. So,
But I thought that
no,
he was the one who went more crazy before going to listen to it. But it seems like Bree's perhaps the one who lost it a bit more with him than vice versa.
Oh yes, but I would say what he's some of that I must say he's great at debating. You can't take that away from him. He's great at it. There's this. I mean, I'll talk about it later. But he uses a great tactic. But I would say he said crazier shit in my view. At the very end, as you said, the rant, Brie stuff wasn't that crazy. But the way she said it, and at that point in the conversation, I feel like everybody was just like tired, and then she suddenly went beast mode. So it was just like, yeah, I feel like that was different. But
beast mode, I like that.
I feel,
Brie went beast mode. I might use that for the headline.
I swear, she literally went, no, let me tell you. It was like a Digimon evolving to the next level or something. It was pretty great.
But yeah, so what are maybe some of your main more serious takeaways from the whole thing, And I guess everything that anybody wanted to talk about was his whole thing that, I've never, people like don't stand by their like wife or kids as well as Matt tried to like, back up. I mean, as strongly as he stood by his point about the Nazi Germany. Because
I am somewhat worried about your wife and future kids.
I wouldn't defend them for 5 hours. After the second one, I'll be like, but no matter who, everybody would call, and they had moved on the conversation. I would like to come back to Matt's comparison with Nazi Germany.
Yeah, this is what the right, by the way, calls the sissification of the West. That you just, I can't do it, guys. Just defend yourself. I don't care.
But if someone is that stubborn, if not, actually don't think that he defended it too well in terms of providing facts backing it up or anything, or any real reasons why this comparison. And even one part, he mentioned the institutions. He was like, if you look at the Chinese institutions, similar to Nazi, but he didn't make me feel as if he didn't convey I didn't go away with the feeling I think enough about those institutions and the Chinese ones for me to believe this point. I was really not sold, and he didn't go on to elaborate anyway.
He admitted he doesn't pretty much know shit about the matter. He pretty much admitted to that. Yeah, Matt doesn't know shit about the whole Xinjiang and Chinese alleged genocide or Chinese alleged
or even Chinese institutions, or maybe he does, but he didn't elaborate, because I remember
about the economic institutions for sure. Yeah,
I mean, to that extent, I don't know.
First, Matt is great at debating, and I say that. Before that, let me just say this. Yeah, what you pointed out, it was so funny that, because Brie, I think at some point correctly, she realizes that, okay, at some point there is just the differences are too much. As she puts it, there are factual differences in the way people view the thing. So there is no point in debating it. So the conversation evolves to other things, right? And then like word order and blah, blah, blah. And then you have these people who've been waiting on the call-in sort of thing to come on or something for 2 hours and stuff. And they come on and they're still on that issue. And sorry to bring this up again, but the whole Nazi thing, Matt mentioned the whole Nazi thing, and frankly, man, there should be a law against, you should not be able to do Nazi comparisons anymore. We all, including myself, we've all ruined it. we've had too much fun with Nazi comparison. Nobody should be allowed to do it. And I think Matt really fucks it up on that. I mean, he's great at debating tactics because he, that's what he does. Like he basically, whenever he feels like it, he focuses on a specific example and a detail. And whenever he feels like it, he suddenly goes all broad strokes and all very generalized theoretical stuff, which is such a this is what Bill Burr says. Whenever you have an argument with your wife, just stick to the point. Whenever he's so right though, that whenever with your partner or somebody, whenever they're right on the point, they stick to the point, right? When they're right on a specific issue. When they are not right on a specific issue, then it suddenly becomes all about all the other things in your life.
Yeah.
How, for example, you never put the rubbish bin out on the time, or you don't clean your room properly, or your towels, are on the floor. So suddenly it becomes much more general. And he clearly utilizes that strategy, because whenever he feels like it about the Xinjiang, and whenever he wants to, which I thought that was the worst thing he did, when he tried to discredit the other person on the call as a guest, Danny, who was being very patient with him. I would have fucking ripped him apart.
Yeah.
And and I mean, it's so funny that he brings up like that stupid detail about Tesla being a monopoly, trying to discredit the other guy. But then he himself knows almost zero to nothing about history of China, about international politics, seems. And then I'll get to that, but just maybe you should have some words about.
No. Great stuff. I mean, I just to touch on the Nazi thing. I mean, listen, if you're gonna make that Nazi, but if you are going to do it, I mean, it better have been like 2 years worth of work and research that you've done, and you're gonna at least come up with like 3 points of something. And it can't only be one thing that the German Nazi thing done, right? I mean, at least draw a comparison on multiple levels, on multiple ways, because otherwise, of course, there are similarities with everything. You can start with the fact that the Nazis committed these crimes with men and women and other men and women. So at that level, there are a lot of similarities. Exactly. Of course, there are a lot of similarities. But if you're going to really bring that up, I mean, at least put some effort in justifying it, which I can't remember like one thing that he kept on going back to the thing that in the 1930s, they weren't initially like committing the same crimes. Bullshit. But then
everybody was committing that crime at the time. Like everybody in Europe was killing Jews. It's this idea that only in Germany, like everybody was pretty much committing smaller scale crimes. By the way, I love first. I completely agree with you. If you're gonna use it, we need at least 3 pages of bibliography, and not like with a big
like
font or
much higher level of like you need much higher ceiling than other arguments. Other arguments, there's some you can come and just say it and I'll take it. But this one.
Brie makes a great point that, because, for example, the fashion houses in Italy were designing the Nazis like amazing trench coats. Then like in that sense now, because I don't know now, London police has, very nice trench coats. Therefore, they're just like the Nazis. It was the most ludicrous comparison. And it's, by the way, anyway, like what like I don't understand what is with the Nazis being. I mean, they were worse than everybody else, but they were just, it's a, worst degree of awfulness. It's not like, it's so, I can't imagine anybody else doing that. Like, I'm sure if there are a lot of other people, if they had a chance, they would have done what the Nazis did. And they would to this day with people like me or others or whatever. So, this, who gives a shit if they're like Nazis or not? Let's talk about
Matt Stoller kept on, he thought that, this was like a way of really making his point, which he said, which actually did not, unless his point is to have everybody talk about this, that he succeeded. People were calling, couldn't get over it. We can't get over it. In that sense, he succeeded. But if you think it helped him to make his argument.
No, frankly, that was like, I don't think he knows much about international politics at all. And that kind of, it was very obvious. Then saying the other person is a Holocaust denier.
I mean, that didn't even make any sense. That made
Like, why not knowing
absolutely
the
little sense.
smallest
That
detail
made
about
very
the
little
case?
sense.
Yeah, this is again like, are you a Holocaust denier? And it all comes down to his. I mean, he's poisoned by American. You know, one time you said American exceptionalism
Yeah, man.
had
Look,
reached Crystal and Kyle.
yeah,
This was American exceptionalism had reached him. He like,
quite
are
a
the
bit of
Bangladeshi
nationalism.
children?
No, like
Wait,
are his
are
takes
the
not being isn't his heavy bit of nationalism not influencing him and a lot of that
oh, I
conversation?
think huge.
I
No, this
thought.
is
Sorry
worse
for
than
cutting you off,
Crystal
but I
and
thought it goes with what you were going to say, perhaps.
no, yeah, more than Crystal and Kyle. Are the children in Bangladesh working in, you know, factories that are, you know, paid on their wages below whatever humanity would consider reasonable? But, you know, those children, they're like, are they slave laborers? Are the children working for wages and they're just employees? What is it, Matt? Like, I mean, it's the level of double standards imposed on
100%.
China. I mean, this is just like a Stalin. Like, you know,
Man,
people may like a Stalin
can I
killed that
add
many
something
people
right
and all.
there?
Just one point.
Sorry.
Like this, the only difference between China and Soviet Union and America is that with China, like, that's why I prefer old-fashioned imperialism, because when you take over something, you also take responsibility to an extent. The only difference is America is like, oh, we are an independent nation. They are an independent nation. Like, Vietnam wants to have relations with us. I mean, some of the stuff he says about small nations wanting to have relations, they have a voice with America. I'm sorry, but shove your voice up your ass. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, that argument was
Sorry.
so disingenuous in so many levels, right? Like, you know,
the
Vietnam world, for instance, with Vietnam, they have completely moved on, right? There's no longer like a threat of Vietnam being attacked by the US. I mean, the dynamics have changed so much. So I thought that wasn't a good example. And I mean, in that sense, in behaving that way. And yes, I mean, in the sense we always talk about, countries always have agencies, and, you know, maybe the leaders in Vietnam and stuff, they would, you know, find it better right now to collaborate with the US over China and other ways, but not the way he put it. The way he dressed it was not this argument. That was totally different. It was much more whitewashed. Coming back to the double standard thing.
I mean, Vietnam is a bit of an odd example, but even in Vietnam, American money, to be honest, has sort of found its way. But look at the specific when he wants to be. He's very general when he wants to be. You know, whenever it comes to, for example, China. Well, you don't know because China doesn't want you to know. Oh, you don't know about this China secret. Sri Lanka. Let's talk about in these other places where there is a proof record. America's clandestine and overt activities. And again, I don't even blame them. I'm like, every nation does that. It's the name of the game. You know, you hate the game, don't hate the player, so to speak. But this idea that, no, they want to be part of our open discussions about their future. Oh, Matt, thank you so much, America, for letting us being part of your great democratic system. Fuck you and fuck your democratic system.
Man, I guess you're allowed to be a leftist and be a nationalist. They're not in some ways of being leftist. It doesn't. No, I'm saying, like, in some ways of defining leftist, it doesn't go, you know, counter that definition or goes with that definition. You know, you can be a leftist and I guess be a national socialist, like you're kind of saying, which I see a lot more people that, like, I thought were on the left. That's kind of where they fall. But with the double standard one, and I think Bree pointed out this one's my favorite. Let me know what you think, or am I mistaken here? Is this technology transfer to China that we always hear? You know, they're like, oh, technology is being transferred to China. As if, like, you know, the US is just like, you know, giving these, like, for free, willingly, these kind of, like, technology. And like the way they make the technology sounds as if, you know, there's like this great thing they've come up with that's not being used on a piece of paper. They're like, here, you guys actually go develop this. And Bree made a great point. She's like, you can say that about any country that the US goes to. I mean, when they go to Bangladesh too, they're, you know, transferring their technology. When they go, transferring their technology. I mean, did you? I know you know that American companies, they're the ones who got up and went there and started setting up shop there. Or maybe I'm mistaken, because I'm also far from being an expert in this area. But I just hate this framing of technology transfer to China as if it's so particular. I know it's more here because American companies decided to go to China. I mean, take it on with them. Take it up with them.
Sorry,
cut off there for a second.
For a moment. What did you say at the end?
I just said take it up with them. I said we all know that it's the American companies who willingly went to China, as far as I understand, right? The Chinese Communist Party didn't twist their hands and drag American corporations there, based on my understanding.
You know what they are upset about? You know what these people, Crystal, Sager, Matt, they are upset about the fact that the rich people that have been selling them this whole jingoistic, patriotic bullshit through movies, through culture, just like every other nation. Again, I don't want to, it feels like I'm picking on America all the time. They've been selling them all this jingoistic shit. They don't believe that shit. Guess what? They have their factories in other countries while talking about bringing jobs back to the American workers. So they, it's kind of like, a scorned wife or something. It comes across very much like that. But I'm sorry, but I generally think IP is probably one of the most evil thing that we have come across. It leads to a stifling of innovation. It leads to a stifling of originality. It just has created this class of people, both in arts and in humanities and in engineering sort of sciences, that they think because they once had an idea, they I had this original idea. This is my music. This is my voice. But by the way, whenever fucking Europeans were going around the world, or Iranians or Turks, whoever was doing the empire at the time, is stealing each other's artwork, each other's designs. Nobody went, there's this famous Iranian design called Jackte or some shit. I don't know. It's royal something. It's used all over the world that's not part of IP. But if it's 100 years ago and in America, somebody went to a registry office, it's IP, and they're stealing our technology. Go fuck yourself.
Transferring our technology. Transferring our technology. Brie got him really good there. I thought just showing the double standard very well there when she said, you can say that about any country.
I hate both sides of that, I must say. This debate, it's been a pet peeve of mine since it's always comes up with oil industry in Iran, because you have one side, the foreign side, which are like, the oil industry in Iran, we found the oil in Iran, we brought the drills over, we did the thing, and stuff. It's like, yeah, motherfucker, you didn't do it for us, though, did you? You did it for your, for the energy, for the ships that wanted to go to India. It's like they're treated as if they did it as a charity work. And then you have Iranians on the other side, or Arabs or whoever on the other side. They took our oil away. I can't believe they took our oil away. And it's like, first of all, you didn't know it was there. Second of all, it's not like you hunted the dinosaurs down and then buried them there waiting. Your grandfather will kill the son. When you grow up, this dinosaur will turn into good oil for. What are they talking like this? Like everybody pretends as if they something belongs to them, or or their grandparents, generations actions have something to do. Our technology. What do you mean our technology? It's in MIT. Some Indian and Iranian dude is developing it, most probably. Our technology. Fuck yourselves, everybody. Seriously, go fuck yourself, everyone.
I mean, we all think we're very special, I think, in this world, always. Whether we're thinking of ourselves individually or at the nation level, everybody thinks.
And I do too.
They're special. No, we all fall into that trap for sure. I mean, we all have for different ones. That is 100%. But I mean, with the American one and here, when you argue and so much and stuff, you think you would, spot some of your double standard and think the Matt Stoller was a roller good.
Have you ever heard about Operation Gladio? All the European stuff. This is ridiculous. He doesn't know shit about international history, and then he's criticizing somebody for sort of almost, I would say, as a mistaken sort of use of word, saying that Tesla is a monopoly instead of saying that it's extremely powerful. And then he's like, how do I trust somebody who made such mistakes? And then he's making just left and right the most idiotic comments about international history and politics.
Do you think he won any supporters or like new viewers or fans there overall with the whole podcast and everything? Did anything go well? I mean, he had one question, for instance, that I thought was a nice, mature question that he asked, which is one part he asked, does there need to be a global order? So, and I'm not saying that I agree with him necessarily, right? Or what we mean by global order, it can be different. And in reality, it will make differences how they are. But that was a good
he clarified.
Question. Yeah. No, I was just giving my response, like what it would be, not talking about him.
No. But he said like that was the debate. The debate was not that there can be a global order or not. The debate was that can it be higher? Like it has to be hierarchical. While while Bree seemed to suggest it doesn't have to. That's where I agree with Matt. So, I don't think America or China or Iran or Russia or any of them are better moralistically than any of them. Like Matt seems to think the American tradition is so much better, but he's right. It's hierarchy, it's competition, it's power. And Frank, I know Bree went on a rant about real people, things that she's wrong. She's just wrong about that. Thousands of years ago, people couldn't imagine things like they do today. They did the very much similar systems of government and international relations had existed at least since civilization.
No, her examples were 6,000 years ago. Her examples were progress, but not progress in that area. They were like technological, like societal.
Yeah.
Of course, there's all kinds of progress. There's probably progress. I guess like how you manage society. I meant like sewage and all this. I guess it does come down to technology. Really.
Logistics is it's very important. It's like we develop new ways of transportation. All of that is hugely important. But again, as you say, it's like the political systems have not evolved at like this is literally we are doing the same. It's like the names have changed, the names of different categories, but this idea, and actually that's something that even though I love the Chapa Trap House guys, I always completely disagree with them. This idea that capitalism has created this sort of a completely modern mindset, completely different from a previous period. I completely disagree. I think it's extremely, again, it's this idea that we are special, we are at the uniqueness. Does not mean I'm an optimist and I don't want to strive for a better world, but I don't think political have like that's just, I'm sorry, but that's just wrong, just factually, evidentially.
And perhaps you can have a global order that is still hierarchical, you could say, but like less hierarchical in the sense that, let's say, like the space, more balanced. So like the top 10 countries are much more closer, or like the top 2-3 countries are much more closer, they cancel each other out. Or let's say something like the UN is actually more powerful or more efficient than it kind of is. No, I'm saying there are different ways that the global hierarchy can be. Why not? Like why theoretically can't you have that?
Well, theoretically you can. I'm not saying but practically it's not possible for a community like unless UN turns into a sort of a global state type thing, like an extremely extremely
like actually being a big international government,
like has an army.
There technically isn't. Like actually basically, being the UN that people think exists, which doesn't.
Basically, really. Start enforcing laws as
that's what I meant.
Type things.
No, like for instance, like exactly, that's kind of what I meant. Like unless a word like that.
I don't see that happening.
No, I didn't say see it, but I just meant that theoretically the hierarchical world doesn't have to be like the worst version of it. It could be maybe a little bit better for most countries and people, I guess, right? At the end, it all comes down to people. That's what, and it could be worse too. Point, like the US could be like the superpower could be 10 times stronger or something and inflict more harm.
If we get to a point that UN is enforcing law and UN has become the de facto global state, at that point, I don't think there would be a US or Iran or China or anything. At that point, you have pretty much the like it's actualization of a global elite into a really global elite, and you'll have them, in major cities having, and then you will have again actualization of a global south or global poor. In, like, I would think it would probably lead to ghettoization of the poor and all that at a massive scale. But my point again, like, it's not going to be a community ever. Like, it's never been at any scale at a scale of community. It has been a community, but no, just it's never this idea of democracy, this idea of all that. No, it's not going to work. Good luck.
And before I move on to this, I don't even have any more serious points really. I just have one after that I'll bring up. But the other day in the podcast, you said something really good. Here, he didn't bring it up, but about democracy. I think you said democracy is a floating signifier. Is that the words that you use?
I said that.
Yeah, you said that. That was really good. But I'm saying Matt's
floating.
Yeah, what did you say?
Floating signifier. A floating signifier is something signifier language.
Yeah.
It's a sign, right? So that means that
that was really good.
It doesn't. It means whatever it means into a person in their head, because it's,
yeah. Because in the Callin part, it didn't come up as much, but like in the what's it called, he was using that during the podcast. He was throwing the word democracy, like China wants to get rid of our democracy, and we talked about what that could potentially mean. Like China wants to weaken US's power, yes, but when you put the word democracy, it just makes it seem like they're after this
emotional,
very exclusive and like amazing system that we have here that they're gonna come and topple. It just gave you that, like
gonna take our system away. Gonna take your system away.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Pacify your system. No, it's fucking ridiculous. Children you're dealing. No, no more Nazi comparisons. And I genuinely hold me to that, please, on the comments whenever I mention them, please. And no more, let's talk about stability, not so much democracy.
Yeah.
That's a serious term. Democracy is not a serious term. I'm sorry. So, have fun with it, whatever. I don't believe in it. It's like free market. It's literally just free market.
Yeah.
And
any more serious points? Do you have any more serious points?
No, but Bree is just again, I hope she's right and I'm wrong. Even though I think she's wrong and I'm right. I really hope she's right and I'm wrong.
Bree,
like her should. I wish people like her were in position of power, basically. Like, if there were 5 people like her in position of power, maybe the world would be a different place. Sadly, it doesn't seem to be likely. So that's why I'm a bit pessimistic. I know, because she went so angry at all the pessimists. And again, as a pessimist, I'm sure majority of people who are pessimistic would say that we would love it if you were right. But sadly, it just doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, no, for sure. And Bree, you can tell, we don't hide the fact that, our channel, we're not, I hope good things happen in the world, right? But we're not motivated or believe
Definitely
in the sense that we can make good things happen. But this has been a few times that you've seen through Bree, that is what she wants and believes in. When was it that time when, who was it when she really went on it's with Chris Hedges, when she was like, if you're telling me that we're not gonna achieve anything in the next 20 or 40 years, then I'm out.
Yeah, I love it. Look, I wish it was, to be honest, I've always wished it was that easy. I would have loved to sell out. I would still to this day, I would love to sell out and become a successful lawyer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just some things you can't do. And I feel like she can't do that. She is what she is, just like a lot of us. And, you have to do what you have to do.
For sure. And then this comment, actually, someone made it on Callin, and this reminded me of you. I think you said they were China is like all the other countries in the world, including the US, which is that it's complicated, right? But we from far, we put this really oversimplified view on China. Just the other day, my teacher was also talking about this too. They were in China, there are all kinds of struggles going on in different regions over minerals and different rare minerals that are in different places, so there's pushback against the government and what can be done with it and not. But from the outside, you think that the Chinese communists, if they decide, okay, I'm going tomorrow to do this here, that what are they gonna do? It's an autocratic, blah blah, authoritarian country. No, there's that just reminded of you, and it was a very good point. And sorry, last point related to this. There are so many people like myself who are so like interested in China. We just find China so interesting, but we all like know so little. I mean, I don't know who you have to talk to who at least can like locate China on a map and then like take it from there. It just really seems to be a rare thing. There are a lot of professors out there though who specialize in China.
We should invite some China experts. But I would say, actually, that just reminded me of a point that I forgot. You know what? Are you familiar with the U.S. history debates regarding the Reconstruction and the South? That, you know,
I mean, I know what you're saying right now, but yeah, I'm not too sure.
Yeah. Well, there is this thing, especially it's sort of a revisionist history that, you know, that Reconstruction, like the left believes Reconstruction didn't go far enough, right? It was abandoned very early on in the middle and sort of half-assedly done and all that. But there is a different narrative, sort of reaction to that came from sort of conservative movement that is saying that it was basically carpetbaggers coming from the north fucking people up. I remember even one idiot in Newsweek or one of these like right-wing goddamn magazines that wrote almost comparing it to a genocide, to a cultural genocide by destruction of the ruler South, destruction of the traditions of the, you know, people that were living. And this idea of cultural genocide in China, again, it's one of those, it's not a floating signifier. Genocide has become a floating signifier, I would say. But this culture, it's this unclear idea of that, for example, if you, and frankly, I'm not necessarily all for, you know, accepting every aspect of a culture. A lot of Islamic culture, frankly, like I am completely on the side of Chinese government that a lot of Islamic culture needs to be rooted out, you know, because it's against, in my view, against reason and whatever. I mean, not that there is a reason, but you have to point for your beliefs, in my view. So, you know, I think when you don't talk precisely, and so it reminded me so much of that debate, that this idea of these like people who are, in my view, are modernizing really. Like Matt mentioned Tibet, like China. I knew a lot of, I had a few I had like 2 Tibetan friends and Chinese friends and stuff, and I was you know, in the middle of those debates and stuff, and it is extremely, as you say, complicated and a complex debates. Some Tibetans are very pro-China government. They believe in the modernization. They bought wholeheartedly into the whole project. As a lot of Muslims, same. So, you know, it reminded me of that. It was very imprecise talk by him and all that. So yeah. It's, as you say, complicated. If you want to talk about an issue this sort of seriously and then use it as a sort of justification for something else, just you have to get the details. At least get them. Maybe not get them right.
But yeah, really weird, the whole thing on it. Like, if you would have told me that Matt Stoller is going to come on the Brie podcast and it's going to go this way and continue on the Callin thing, I would have never believed. Although I know very little about him, but he just seemed like a much more, like, you know, say things much more carefully and go down. I don't know. I don't know if you have any other serious stuff. Perhaps the thing that marked me the most,
let's have fun.
is that Brie had just done a 2-hour something podcast, taken like a little hour break, done a 3-hour calling thing. It was 11 o'clock. She had drank tequila, stopped drinking tequila, was going in a hangover phase. And then she was going to go use her elliptical machine to exercise. And I was like, what is going on?
What is going on with her?
It shouldn't be this hard. Like, I don't. When I look at her, I don't feel like it should be this hard for her. That she really needs to get extra workout at 11 o'clock to maintain her body, or physique, or health.
No, we don't know if it's extra or that's what surprised me the most. The fact that, like, I don't know, is that like, do people like after drinking usually like you exercise and then drinking? You know what I mean? Like, in just because the hangover and all that. And how are you getting on the elliptical machine?
And the elliptical,
right? You made of?
Yeah. No, if she said
like
that, you know,
or something?
Yeah, exactly. No. And if it was like a sport and she was like practicing her skills and having fun, I would understand. If she was like, I just recently picked up, I don't know, pick a sport, right? And I'm gonna like practice it a bit because it's so much fun and I like it. No one has ever had fun being on the elliptical machine, so I don't want to like. No one goes and done it. Do that for fun. If she said I'm gonna go play badminton with my friend right now, I would have been. Badminton is fun. So at this time of night, I can understand.
Okay, I give you.
But you're gonna
badminton or frisbee.
Yeah,
but man, tequila. What is she like? A 1950s lawyer from like a noir movie? She's drinking whiskey, but she still has a six-pack and all that.
Because I'm pretty sure she drank like this much. Like hearing from her, I'm pretty sure she had like 2 little shots of like tequila in like a drink with ice and stuff.
All right,
maybe, and yeah, that was. Because and she already got tipsy or something.
Yeah, that's the thing. I wouldn't call it tipsy, but she was buzzed. But it was man. So like I was just Jesus Christ. What am I? Again, it's like every time I watch the Vanguard, because they're so young and youthful and all that. It's like every time I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Like these people are so much more. She's doing a 5-hour podcast and then getting on an elliptical after getting like drunk. What is going on? Like. I understand like lighting up when exercising, but drinking, man, I can't. Especially like even I can understand drinking while playing like a sport, like and then drinking and then sitting with it and then again. Oh wow.
No, Brie, we're very concerned. Yeah, but in general too, like I don't know, shouldn't be that hard to stay fit. No, that was the most concerning thing that happened at the end of this. After everything that's happened. When she mentioned the elliptical machine thing, I almost lost it. I was like, no, is this whole thing like some kind of comedy sketch? You're going to invite Matt Stoller, who's going to compare China to Nazi Germany and not back down no matter what? I've never seen someone be so stubborn. I've never seen someone be so stubborn.
And I've never seen so many people trying to, like, they kept calling again. Look, Matt. I found this article. Let me read it to you. It's just look. He's not gay. Yeah, but yeah, man. I mean, like the first thing you said to me about this whole elliptical and breathing did make me hate you though a lot because you were like, oh, it shouldn't be this hard to stay fit and all that.
When you're like, fit like her, like you. No, when you're fit like her, I don't know. I wouldn't say that to anyone. But someone like her,
she hasn't always been fit.
Yeah, maybe she hasn't.
So what do you know, all right? For a lot of us, man, I'm getting tired of like, this is ridiculous. I'm exercising.
But you're crazy too, though. So I don't know. It's not other people's fault if you're crazy. So I don't know.
I'm crazy too. That's good to know.
So it's kind of your fault.
Why did they show in movies? Not happening, and this is not right, man.
Sam, I thought movies are not supposed to influence people. But as I can see, the media has a very strong effect on you. Then it seems to be the case. There you go. I won the media argument once and for all. That's it.
Yeah. Let's wrap this podcast up, guys. Last episode.
I made my point out.
This whole podcast was a 5-year project to prove Sam wrong. Finally. Hypocrisy, Bern. Got it.
But okay, so this was just a little bonus for a Progressive World episode. People can hear us talking about
for the comment.
About it before, about the whole podcast during our podcast. So go check that out. Yeah. But yeah, any final words?
Yeah, like really thanks for the comments because at least three hours of my day and an hour after like was filled with it was great.
So thank you for that. And yeah, please leave your comments, questions, criticisms down below. Make sure to get to it. If not, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video. Thank you.